Patch 2.18.0. Here are the changes, boys. First things first, Nami level 1. There is a level requirement change from 7 to 8 plus spell mana this game. Nami was a little too explosive when leveling up as early as round 4, so we're increasing her level up requirement to slow her down a bit. This is huge. Huge! Because she takes a turn longer to level up. That's very, very, very important to consider. Now, it's still possible to level her at level 4. If you're using, Flash. You can still do it with Flash, exactly. Flash or Brilliance does it. A tune from Double Trouble could do it, 100%. True. That is true. I think this is huge because if she is... You never want to play Nami before she's leveled, and I'll tell you why. If she doesn't buff HP, she sucks. You don't care about her buffing attack. The biggest problem with Nami is she makes other units unremovable while buffing herself. So let's say you drop down Nami. She's a 3-4 leveled up. You try to remove her. You give her 2 HP, but you're also giving HP to the other units you have on board. So that is the biggest issue that Nami gives us. She buffs HP. As long as she's not buffing HP, this is a very minor detail. So usually what would happen is when mana 4 came around, you as the opponent could never drop under 6 mana, more or less. Why is that? Because it usually costs about 6 plus mana to kill a Nami. Why? Because Nami at 3 mana, she still has 4 more mana to protect herself. And 4 mana can give her up to 8 HP, sometimes 7, sometimes only 6. So you have to consider that you're trying to kill a unit that has 8 HP. You need things like Minimorph. You need things like the Targon 6 mana cost silencing deals 6 damage. You need things like Thermo Beams. These are the things you need to kill her. So you need to constantly be threatening to have like 6, 7, 8 mana. And that causes you not to be able to play anything. It's horrible. Despair, there are examples like Despair, yes, but that's only a few cases where there are cards that kill her for cheaper. So the fact that you don't need to hover with 6 mana on mana 4, and you can wait until mana 5 to hover on that, is a huge deal. It means you can be more proactive on your earlier turns, because she's not going to be leveled and not going to be a threat until the turn after. I agree with this. This is a pretty good change. She's still very strong. She's just a little bit later than she would like to be, because you can no longer get like a really buff lifesteal SparkleFly. Well, even, talking about SparkleFly, it's even worse now. The SparkleFly nerf is a much bigger nerf to this archetype because it changes everything. Before, SparkleFly was a way to get back into the game, heal for like 10 HP in like mana 4, mana 5. Now that's no longer the case. Draven. He lost an HP, boys. All over the board. We're bringing down Draven's health to reduce his overall power without impacting his exciting axe juggling elements. Yeah, that's BS. You ruined him. He sucks. I am not a fan of this change at all. I'm sorry. I think this is a bad change. This is akin to the Fiora change. You can't have a 3-cost unit having 2 HP. It's too big of a tempo loss. Although Draven, he has the benefit of giving you an axe, which some could argue is sometimes worth 1 mana, depending on the deck you're playing. It's still a really, really rough change. I don't like it at all. I really don't like this change. At all. It's too much. I agree. Now, I don't know how he would have been nerfed. A lot of people say he deserved a nerf, and I mean, I kind of agree. I really didn't want him to get nerfed. Even though I never played Draven, I think he's one of those cards you want to be strong. He's just one of the cards you just enjoy it when he's strong. He's a representative of this game. Like, he's one of the main characters of this game. He's like a protagonist. I like having him strong. Especially with like cards like Group Shot as well in the meta. He's just so much weaker. I think there were maybe better ways, like... Even if they... I don't like seeing him as a 2-3 either, though. I don't know. I don't know how I would have nerfed him. Honestly, me personally, I would have kept him the same way he is. He deserved a nerf. I mean, I understand that. I still personally didn't want him to get nerfed. I understand that he deserved a nerf. I just didn't want it to happen. Don't create an axe when it's invoked. It changes his gameplay, though, entirely. That changes him so much. I get that remove the axe on summon, but it changes him so much. You know, honestly, if they wanted to nerf him, I would have preferred something like make his level up harder. I know it's not really a nerf because he really never goes for the level up, but give him like, I've struck with 3+ axes just to give him like a pseudo nerf, a small one. Like something like that. That's what I would have gone for. I mean, it would have been a micro nerf, but I really don't like Draven being nerfed. But that's my personal thing. I understand why they did it. I do. Our next set of changes for champions in this patch focus on quality of life updates for champions who could use a little extra help to enable their potential. So Tristana level 2. now impacts herself, grants impact to herself as well as her allies. +1 for every multi-region ally you've summoned this game. When summoned a multi-region ally, grant me. Okay, that's a huge thing. That's huge. Because she has quick attack. Giving herself impact is amazing. Yeah, it stacks. I know. That's why I'm saying it's huge. It stacks. She can get like 3-4 impact consistently. That's a very, very big change. Makes her a lot stronger. She always had 4 HP at level 2. This is her leveled up form, guys. So, big buff. Makes her much better in aggro decks. She's still bad. I never thought she was bad. The problem was she herself did nothing, but every time you play a unit, because if your deck is full of multi-region units, every time you play a unit, she gets 1 impact. That's good stats, and she's not very hard to level up either. I like it. Nocturne level 2. Level 2 Nocturne now retains Nightfall, grant an enemy vulnerable, and give enemies -1 this round. That's not what Nocturne needed. I don't think it's going to make any difference almost. Sure, it's a buff. It's a decent buff, but I don't think this is enough. I think Nocturne's biggest issue is he's a 4 mana cost card that has 3 HP and dies to anything. I think Nocturne dies way too easily. It's not bad though. It's definitely a good buff. But I think Nocturne needed just a little bit more HP than this. It's still decent. It gives you a free vulnerable on something. And -1 as well, like after he levels up. It's a decent change. But I don't think it's enough. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe vulnerable is really good this patch and you want to remove key units like Nami and all of a sudden having your... Because like usually if your Nocturne's already leveled up, that's the last thing you're thinking about. You're thinking about OTKing that turn. Like does giving -1 attack to one more unit and giving a vulnerable make a difference after the level up? Like his biggest problem is before he levels up. He dies to everything and he takes a while to level. So yeah, I don't think this is enough, but it's a good start. I like it. Ekko! From predicted 5+ up to predicted 4+ times. I think it needs to be 3+ times, dude. I'm not even kidding. I don't care what they say. I think Ekko needs to be 3+ times. I'm sorry. I still think he's not very good. I think 3 would have been the magic number. 4 mana, 2 HP is atrocious. And in the deck that he's actually... Because Ekko, in order for Ekko to be viable, in order for Ekko to be playable, he needs to be in Shurima. I'm sorry, he simply does. It's too annoying to level him up in PNZ only. Now it's easier, but it's only 20% easier. It still requires a lot of things to go correct. In Shurima, he's pretty much the same, because he was always leveling Shurima by this point. And in non-Shurima, I don't think there's a really big change. It's a buff for sure, it makes him a little bit better. But the fact that he's still so weak, I think if you want him to see play in non-Shurima places, he needs to be 3+. Right? 3 for him to see play in non-Shurima. And in Shurima, he's just as good because he's always leveled up in either case because Shurima has a lot of predicts. Yeah, I would have liked to see 3 because Ekko really shines in non... Like, Ekko really doesn't offer Shurima much. This effect, you want to see that in Noxus, right? With your Marauders. You want to see this in Shadow Isles with your Hekrims and your big... Shurima offers him nothing. PNZ doesn't offer him that much. If PNZ gets more predict support, this is really a good change, but it doesn't have it. So, for now, I'm going to say, it's a good start. Did Aesol get a big buff this patch or not? What do you guys think? Did Aesol get buffed or not? No? 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 Yes, he did, chat! Have you not seen the rest of the patch notes? Aesol's amazing! Dragon's got a gigantic buff. Not only did this happen, his arch nemesis... Guys, if this was an anime... And Aesol was the protagonist. Who is his arch nemesis? Who is the one man who destroys Aesol? His kryptonite. It is Mr. Aloof himself. And Aloof has been gutted. So yes, Aesol got some massive buffs. Not only that, Dragons got some massive buffs. Aesol getting 20+ power as well on top of that. It's insanato. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Aesol is a lot stronger. So yes, the first buff 20+ power is huge, by the way. Getting 20+ power, he's already halfway there. It's a huge deal. This is Gigantosaurus Rect. It's beautiful. Huge Aesol buff. Gigantic. Aesol might be coming back into the meta. For sure. Not really much to say because he's had this exact same thing before. We know the power level of 20+ power. We have been here. So we're going to skip it over for now. Renekton, level 1. He only needs 10 damage instead of 12. Huge! Because that means he can level up by attacking once and blocking once, instead of having to attack twice. That's huge. He's so much easier to level. How many times have you had a 10 out of 12 Renekton? One attack, one block is enough now. Whereas before it was just double attack because you needed to hit for 6 twice. Now it's 4 and 6. That's a huge level up. He levels on block. You play him on 4, he hits once, and then if your opponent attacks, you can block and level him. That's insane. You could even have him leveling on 1 attack if you have buffs in hand. You can level him up on the first attack because you can get him to 10 attack relatively consistently. You just need a double buff on mana 4. That's it. You use a Renekton signature card plus the 1-cost card, and you're good to go. You have everything you need. His signature card gives +2 attack and vulnerable, and the 1-cost card gives +2/+1. Boom, you're hitting for 10, you level him in 1 try. It's amazing. It is amazing. Lux! Now, I heard Swim say this is not a huge buff. It's gigantic, dude! You get to play her on mana 5. Holy crap, it's a huge buff. Swim is saying this is a tiny buff. Is he insane? She retains her HP, guys. Okay, one thing is if she was a 5 mana cost 3/4. No, they kept her HP. Nobody cares about her attack. She went from 4/5 to 3/5. She didn't go from 4/5 to 3/4. She kept 5 HP with barrier on mana 5. Do you guys know how hard it is to kill a unit on mana 5 that has 5 HP and barrier? Yes, she dies to Culling Strike. That is true. I mean, is there anything else to say? And secondly, Final Spark can target Nexus. You don't even need to use it on a unit. If there are no units, you can hit Nexus with Final Spark. That's a pretty big change. No longer can people avoid playing units in order for you not to get lethal. You can now Final Spark face. Yeah, I'm looking forward to building decks with Lux now. Lux is so strong at mana 5. Why? Because she's a good blocker on mana 5. Like, back in the day, you used to really struggle early on. Like, you just play her on 5 and she blocks stuff. She has barrier. She stops... she's a really good blocker versus aggro. She does so many good things for you. It's amazing. It's really, really good. Also, Lux with the 3-cost card from Heimer. Flash of Brilliance. Yeah, Flash of Brilliance. I think Flash of Brilliance... Getting Final Spark on mana 5 is so insane. And you only need 1 Flash of Brilliance plus a 3 mana cost spell. It's actually a really powerful mana 5. Mana 6 is a point in the game where it's already a little bit late to do things versus aggro. Mana 5 is not. 1 mana earlier playing Flash into something is just crazy good. I'm really looking forward to playing Lux. I really am. I think it's going to be awesome. Now, if you play Flash, you can't play Karma because you're playing PNZ Demacia, but it's still going to be a very good time. So I'm looking forward to these decks. Quinn got a buff. I did not even see this. Base stats from 3/4 to 3/5. So she got 1 HP around the board. That's pretty good. You guys are all laughing? Really? A 3/5 plus Valor? That's already 5/6 worth of stats for 5 mana. And you have Challenger and you have Scout on both. I can definitely see that being a super value card. I think that's very solid. Her biggest problem was she died too easy at 4 HP. 5 HP is a huge difference. 5 HP means a lot of things can't block her anymore. Because by mana 5, most units have 4 attack. Yeah, there's no mana change. I think this is solid. I think this can see play now. I think this can see play in, for example, maybe even Poppy decks. No, not Poppy decks. Maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Can this see play in Poppy decks? I don't know about Poppy, but because Poppy doesn't have Scout. This is all of a sudden solid, and you can go back to playing Misfortune Quinn. I think you can go back to playing Misfortune Quinn with this change. Scout Misfortune might be a thing. I think this might be enough. I think that's a good start. I think this might make it strong enough to play again. I'm actually looking forward to trying to build a Quinn deck after that. Because Quinn is very strong when she's leveled. She's 4/6 with Scout and she brings Valors every time. This is actually insane value. People underestimate how strong this is if you can level her fast enough. Even harder to kill. My man Braum. Growing them biceps. Getting even tougher as the day goes by. Plus 1 HP. I mean, everyone knows it's no secret I love to play Braum decks. The biggest thing about this, I'll tell you what the biggest thing about this is. You're able to level him in 2 hits instead of 3. You're able to level him by taking 5 damage plus 5 damage. That's the biggest deal here. You're able to block a 5 attack unit twice. You attack a 5 attack unit and you level him in 2 hits. That's the biggest change for Braum. Because back in the day when he was 5 HP, you'd have to hit for like 3, 3, and 4 maybe, or something like that. Now you can take 5 damage hits without having to buff him. I'm aware of Culling Strike, chat. I am. But Culling Strike is not even amazing versus Braum as long as you can get the Poro out of him. If you get the Poro out of him, even if he gets Culling Strike, you got value. What did other... I didn't really listen to any other streamers. What do they say? I think this is a big buff. I'm not even kidding. I think it's a big buff. Is he going to be viable? I don't know. But it's a really, really decent buff to Braum. It makes him so hard to remove on mana 4. Okay, listen, chat. People are saying stuff like Despair. You do realize Despair is a 4 mana for a 4 mana, right? You spend 4 mana to remove a 4 mana card. Margway says it's the healthier buff. Yeah, for sure. +1 attack makes him too strong, I think. I mean, Despair is not a problem. You don't lose any tempo, you don't lose any mana, you lose nothing if your Braum gets Despair. The only time Despair is really bad for Braum is if your deck is built around Braum and only Braum. If that's your only win con, getting Despair sucks. Said it was good because of regeneration keyword. It is. I mean, he always had regeneration. But it's a really, really big buff for him. I'm looking forward to playing more Braum after this, 100%. People are underestimating this. I'm glad me and Mogwai are on the same page here. I like Braum a lot. I always have, and it's going to be really fun to play him in Karma decks again. Liked it, but still thinks Braum won't see any competitive play. I mean, competitive play is a really hard thing to really put Braum into, but I want to go back to Braum. I think Brahma after this is going to be more solid, because Braum was really the stabilizer of Brahma. He was the one who you just dropped on 4, and if he survives a turn, you get to survive until mana 10 because of him. He's just the wall. He's the shield wall. He plays the part so well. And at 5 HP, he was just dying a little bit too often. He was so often 1 HP away from surviving. I think this is huge. 4 mana 6 HP is nothing to joke about. Did I explain my point of view? Or do you need more, chat? That's good. More. Good riddance, yes. TwinBlade Revenant was proving a bit too effective at shutting down enemy boards. We're swapping out Challenger for Fearsome to retain the Revenant role as a recursive threat. Solid change. Still a very strong card. What worries me about this change is that I think all of a sudden people are going to be a lot more ballsy playing their Poppy decks and their Sivir decks. Because this was like keeping certain decks in check. This was keeping certain decks in check because the constant Challenger in 4, you had to build certain ways because of it. Now that this is no longer there as a threat, there's very few Challenger decks in the game that really consistently have a very strong Challenger in mana 4. Vanguard decks, Poppy decks, Sivir decks. What else am I missing here? But yeah, in general, a lot of decks are getting a indirect buff from this because this was a very, very prevalent card in the meta, and people had to build around it. They had to build around this with their turn your unit into a 1/6, etc. There was a lot of things people had to include in their decks to protect their units. Now it's no longer the case. But dragons are coming back in the meta, so I guess maybe that's a good point. That's a decent point. Tenor of Terror. Do re mi fa sol, I kill you. Tenor of Terror and their partner in crime were too effective at enabling go-wide impact strategies. Were bringing their stats more in line with their cost. That's a very significant nerf. That's a big nerf. That's a pretty big nerf, but I still think this card is playable. But it's a big nerf. I don't even think you instant include this anymore because this dies to everything. Every removal in the game removes this, and this no longer trades very well with anything. So, this is literally just 4 mana deal 2 damage, which is a little bit scuffed. But it's still playable. It's still playable. It still gives you interesting. It is okay stats when you put them together. Just the fact remains that, like, if this was a 3-2 and this was a 1-2, it would be so much better. This being 1 HP is what makes it really scuffed. Ooh, Lucian got nerfed. That's true. Relentless Pursuit. It's a 4 mana and a grants +1/+1 now to a unit. Taric buff. Ooh, I didn't think about that. Taking a look at the minimum that rallies can cost across the board, removing Relentless Pursuit up to a 4 cost to open up more room for counterplaying against aggressive rally decks. Added some new functionality to retain its role as a valuable option alongside Golden Aegis. That's huge. That's a huge Taric buff. Holy crap. He doesn't need more So you're not building a Taric deck. You're adding Taric to a rally deck. That's the big thing about this, guys. You add Taric to a rally deck instead of building a deck around Taric. Oh, this is huge. This is a huge deal. Taric is so much stronger now. Because Aegis, no, you play both. Because before, if the only reason Taric was there in order to double rally, well, you only had 3 rallies in deck. What if you don't draw a rally? I mean, this is a huge buff for Taric. I would say it's a significant nerf though to decks like Lulu, to Lulu Poppy, for example, and stuff like that. It's a big nerf to Lulu deck, but it's a big buff for Taric. So, the real reason why this is a really big nerf to aggro rally is the following. Aggro rally was very good at passing with 3 spell mana, right? Imagine aggro rally passes with 3 spell mana, and you have 5 mana left. Can you really afford to develop 2 mana that doesn't go towards blocking and risk them rallying? Because they're able to pass, and if you pass back, they lose no value. All of a sudden, they need to hold on to 4 mana to threaten rally, which is huge because if they do a pass on 4 mana, you can burn one of their mana. The difference between 4 mana and 3 mana is insane in cards like this that are threaten passing. Like the capability of saying I pass with full spell mana, but I'm still threatening if you do something I can rally afterwards, whereas I'm burning 1 mana is just a huge difference. This is gigantic. This is a big burn to aggro rally, but it's a big buff to Terror. Also, this can no longer be notified, which is kind of interesting to think about. It makes deny a lot better. Board value is important for sure. This is a buff to Sivir, Akshan, Demacia, right? Is it? It actually is a buff to a sense to Akshan because it levels up his landmark faster, but I don't know how huge of a buff it is. I don't think it's a huge buff to them, but it is a buff. This is interesting. So they literally said that it opens up more room for counterplay to aggressive rally decks. Yes. So this is a nerf to aggro decks, but it's actually not a nerf to later game rally decks. It can be not. No, it can't. It cannot be denied by killing the unit. Because it doesn't say 2 rally. If it said granted ally +1/+1 2 rally, it would be a deny. It just says rally. This is a separate condition. So you can't kill the unit to stop a rally here. Alright, Stone Stackers. From 2/2 tough to 2/3 impact. Big nerf and still very good. It's a big nerf and it's still a good card. This still sees play. It's perfect stats and impact. It'll still see play in almost every aggro deck that's being run in this color. It's still a good card. I don't think it was really a big, but it's a big nerf. Like, before this, it was amazing. Now it's still good. So, it is what it is. It lost impact and gained 1 HP. Yeah. It's a good card still. 2/3 for 2 is still very, very vanilla stats, and giving it impact is just good overall. Aloof Travelers. Oh my god. That's been too effective at shutting down late game decks, so we're making them a little easier to deal with now. That is a huge nerf. 3/3, right? Draw effect. That's what I always compared him to. 2/3. Draw effect, but also remove. It's so hard to figure out what to think about this. Alright, I'll say the following. I still think it's an okay card. Theoretically, even a decent card, a good card. You just don't play 3 copies of it anymore. This can still be a good one of in a lot of decks. Why? Because it shuts down strategies, and it still gives you a positive net draw. The stats are trash. I still think you can play this as a one of, no problem. Aloof's effect should have been a spell effect. You still get a body on board, such a powerful. I mean, it's still playable as a one of. I just don't think you play it as a 3 of, maybe even a 2 of in some decks. Would be better to nerf, not. I mean, I still think this is a pretty good card in Shroom decks because it does force a draw, and forcing a draw is always a good thing. So yeah, overall, I think this is maybe a 1 of, sometimes a 2 of, but only in some decks. This is no longer going to be that great. It's not going to see as much play. Our next set of changes focuses on Targon as an individual region. We're buffing a number of cards that reinforce their strengths as one of that goes tall through card creation. So this is actually significant. This is a nice buff. 5 mana 3/6 is not bad stats anymore. I can actually see Moondreamer being a decent drop. That is not bad as a defensive card. It's of course not an aggressive card, but overall, 3/6 for 5 is not horrible as long as it's invoking something. I like this card. Nobody's going to play it. I disagree. I think you might see I mean, Not in the current meta, because the problem in the current meta is that decks go way too wide too fast, and spending your entire mana 5 just to drop 1 unit is not really that great. But in a bit of a slower meta, where you're seeing not so many aggro decks, this can definitely fit in. Block 3 times potentially? Yeah, exactly. So it really depends what the meta is. This here is... Is this even that big of a buff? I mean, honestly, 2-1 to 2-2? I don't know. Like, this card never needed 1 more HP. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, she survives a few more things. Of course, it's a buff. I mean, we're not going to say it's not a buff. She survives Twisted Fate, she survives Make It Rain, she survives Pokey Stick. A lot of different cards she survives, but it's not something insane. This is a much bigger buff. The Solari Priestess going to 2-2 is actually pretty big. This was always a very good card, and now it's actually crazy good. What is the difference with E-card game? This works with Leona too. Yeah, this Solari Priestess is much stronger. All of a sudden, it can actually block everything that it wasn't able to block before. Two attack is like double the damage. Like, you literally doubled its effectiveness in combat. That's a really big buff. This card is so much stronger. That's huge. Huge buff indeed. Ravhun. Wow. So much harder to remove. This is the scary, scary buff. Out of all of these, I think this is... I mean, it's comparable, I would say, to Solari Priestess buff. Ravhun is so hard to kill now. On 5 mana, he has 6 HP, he just... I mean, Ravhun is only really seeing play in Leona decks, but... My goodness, it's he's a scary boy. He is. Thick, yeah. It's a deck that hasn't seen play for a while. But this was one of the most scary cards in that deck, and 5 HP was already tough. 6 is way tougher. That's very strong. But yeah, scary card. Yo, dude, that's all this card needed to be scary as hell. Holy crap, what a finisher. The Scourge has become a massive finisher all of a sudden. Giving the Scourge Overwhelm made him so strong. I mean, I would pick this guy occasionally just because he would give you lethals. Now he lethals on his own. You don't even need a board to pick him anymore. That's insane. This is an insane buff. It makes Asol decks scary all of a sudden. It does. It makes... And keep in mind, like, if Asol's leveled up and this costs 0, holy crap. I pity the fool who thinks this is not a gigantic buff to Asol decks. It's insane. Also, keep in mind, this actually levels up Asol on his own, which is kind of crazy as well. Do you guys see that this is Grant? This isn't... If this was Give, it would be strong. If this gave for 1 turn, I would say it's strong. It grants Overwhelm to your dragons and +1/+1. This is crazy. It's not for 1 turn. It's forever. And together with this... Guys, type 1 if you were around. I was making decks with Rune Dragon when he was a 2/4. I was making decks with this, and every single time I played the deck, I was getting like 20 attack Shyvanas. This also got buffed. I don't think you guys understand how strong this deck is going to become all of a sudden. It's going to be insanato. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. This deck is going to be ridiculous. I mean, just for Asol, this is crazy. You drop Asol on mana 10, and you have 3 spell mana. All of a sudden, your Asol is swinging for 11/11 Overwhelm. Not to count whatever else you have on board. That's an OTK. I think whoever made this is going to regret this. I think this change on its own. I was... You know what? When I was building this deck... Where's my deck? Where's my dragon deck? Here it is. When I was building this deck, this is what I was literally doing. Type 1 if you remember me doing this. I was looking for Overwhelm in these colors, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a good source of Overwhelm. We were even considering Augur of the old ones. But the problem with that is I only have Judgment to activate Behold. I was literally thinking, how do I give these cards Overwhelm? Augur, maybe? It doesn't work. It's not that great. I was considering cards such as Pack Mentality. That's what I was considering. Holy smokes, look at this now! I mean, you just cut this out, and you cut this out, and that's it. You're full Demacia. Now you can actually pop on Targon. And you can play, would I play any of these dragons? Probably. You put in Asol, times 3. You put in, let's say, 2 Eclipse dragons. And you put, 3 Dragon Clutches. You make a few changes here and there. I mean, it's It's so much stronger. You can make this deck so much better. There's so many new things you can do. And not only that, they also buffed her, dude. They gave her a second HP. So now you can get super early dragons because this is no longer killable. This is a 2 mana, 2 HP unit. If you want to kill this, you have to spend 2 mana to kill it. You have to use things like Mystic Shot to kill it. Dude, Dragon, I mean, you're not necessarily going to play it, but it's actually viable now. So overall, Dragon decks are looking crazy. Crazy good. And miscellaneous buffs to round things out. Faces of the Old Ones is actually so much stronger. This is a big deal. And, okay, I'll tell you the main reason why this is a big buff. It's not because it dies to Mystic Shot and now it doesn't. The biggest reason this is a big buff... And everyone knows I used to play these cards in my beautiful decks. Avalanche. You don't kill your own units with Avalanche or Blighted Ravine. You can now Blight it or Avalanche. And it still survives. That's huge. It's huge. It's such a big change. Because this deck always runs Avalanches and Ravines. And you need the 3 HP to survive those. It no longer feels bad to run the 2 cards together. That's a huge change. Help revitalize earlier ramp decks that have fallen by the wayside. Well, listen, first of all, those decks fell off the wayside because you gave way too much hand replenishment. I think that's one of the biggest problems that the current expansion did. The following, this is the problem. Let me show you guys really quick why those decks fell out of favor. Cards like this and this and this. The problem, back in the day, you would Avalanche, kill 4 units, and your opponent had 2 cards left in hand, and they lose, right? Now, it's mana 4, you kill 4 units, and they still have 17 cards left in hand. Why? Because every time they play a card, they generate a new card. Like, you just can't get rid of their hand. Their hand just keeps growing. Every time they play a card, it just grows. It's like a Hydra. You cut one head off, 2 sprout. So, that was the problem. The problem is hand size. It's no longer a problem to run tons of 2-cost and 3-cost units. Why? Because every time you play them, you get a new one in hand. That's the issue. The issue with ramp decks is you can't really get the value from big board AoE. Because one of the biggest things about AoE is card advantage. It's not so... It's 1 card getting rid of 3 cards. People don't care about card advantage anymore because there's way too much card generation. Nobody runs... Do you guys remember back in, like, when lore first launched? How, what was the most OP card in the game? Glimpse, correct? Glimpse was the most OP card in the game. Do you know why? Because it drew 2 cards, basically. It drew 2 cards. And without Glimpse, like, back in the day, you didn't have ways to draw. When Bilgewater first came out, it was insane. You know why it was insane? Because you had draw all over the place. You had draw. Draw just appeared out of nowhere. Everyone had access to draw. Back in the day, draw didn't exist. Draw was not a thing. Right now, draw is never a problem. There was way too much draw, so card advantage is no longer a thing. That's why this fell out of favor, in my opinion. But it's still going to be interesting to see in like ramp ASOL decks, where you're not really ramping and AoEing for the card advantage, but you're doing so in order to get to late game faster. Vanguard Sergeant, huge buff. Holy crap, I did not see this. Demacia decks can struggle to finish games without relying on rallies. Buffing the Sergeant helps make big white. That's a huge buff. Holy crap. That's so strong. Is this like the best Demacia card now? Like non-champion? 3/4 elite. Give you a free card and the free card is actually good? That's huge. Holy smokes. Rip Badger Bear, yeah. I mean, I actually ran Badger Bear sometimes as a vanilla 3/4. That's how good Badger Bear was. Holy crap. 4/5 with Funsmith, I know. Insane. Insane. Also with the Allegiance card from Demacia. I mean, it's just such a good card overall. Even with Poppy, like, it's great. Huge buff on this card. Des and Ada. I'm not even kidding. This is going to see play in every single Darkness deck. Every single one is going to see this card. There's no way it doesn't. It's too strong now. I actually thought this was semi-playable. Now it's just insane. This is actually insane. Wow. What a card. What a card. Additionally, we made rules changes to Trinket Trade, Traveler, and Loping Telescope. They can no longer make themselves. I think that's a very good change, especially for the telescope. It was absolutely broken to make copies of themselves. Big change. Love to see it. Upcoming lab updates, as mentioned in the 2.17 patch notes, a reminder that it's nearly time for some new experiments. Lab of Legends, Saltwater Scourge, and Ultra Rapid Draw will be cycled out in 2.19 on November 10th. Be sure to earn your Malfighting Gangplank card backs and get some high-octane Ultra Rapid Draw games in before then. Nah. Round start effect update. All round start effects now resolved before game ending or unit killing effects. Interesting. So now the Bandle Tree is the main one, right? Resolves first ending the game. Now the same situation will result in a draw. Okay. This change makes round start effects consistent with rules for round end effects. I like that. That's a really good thing. So let's assume this is the board state, right? This is the opponent's board. And this is my board. Round start. If it goes left to right, wouldn't that mean his Ravine pops in the same time as my Bandle Tree and I win the game? So it would matter what order he has his landmarks if it goes left to right? Because the only way we both draw is if everything pops at once. So it can't be left to right anymore, right? Who was a token? I think the token doesn't matter anymore. That's what they're saying here, see? They're saying, this meant a match with two players with full Bandle Trees would have the active player's Bandle Tree resolve first ending the game. Now the situation will result in a draw. So I don't think the token makes a difference anymore. But what happens if you have multiple things proccing? Not just the... Like, of course, if you have both a Bandle Tree, I understand it's a tie, but what does that really mean? Does it mean there's no more left to right, or does it mean you both have to have Bandle Tree at the start of your turn? They proc left to right, but endgame effects trigger simultaneously? The actual end effect is delayed? Is that what it says? Read the bold. All round start effects now resolved before game ending. Oh, okay, I see. Ah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I missed the bold part. So all round start effects now resolved before game ending or unit killing effects. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And then so all of them happen, and then the game checks for unit death and game end. All right, makes a lot of sense. But that means now order of landmarks don't matter at all, right? Like, for example, it no longer matters where you place your units. Like, let's say I had an Ember Maiden on board, and I had a Broadback Protector on board, and Broadback Protector was at 1 HP. If the Broadback was second, the Ember Maiden would kill the Broadback, and he would not be able to do his heal your Nexus. Whereas if he was first, he would heal your Nexus before he dies to her. So unit order doesn't matter anymore at all for these things. Is that what we're saying? Same thing, like... I mean, that takes a little bit of the skill gap out of the game. It's more streamlined. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Killing effect, not damage effect. What killing effect are we talking about then? What round end killing effect are there in the game? Viego? Kindred? Okay, so maybe it doesn't mean damage effects. I actually, then I like that. I'm a fan of that. If it's not a damage effect, I'm a big fan of this change. I think it's a great change. I'm only worried if it's if it includes damage. Okay, fantastic. You're right. I like that. That's pretty good. Let's have a look. Miscellaneous. Unit keywords displays have been optimized to show more icons without overlapping one another. Good. Ranked rewards for the Beyond the Battlefield season are being distributed with the release of this patch as we kick off. Good. Unique descriptions have been added for champion skins. Okay. Bugfix. Infinite loop issue with Glorious Evolution would allow players to summon Evershade Stalker. What do you mean? I did that! That's not a bug. That doesn't need to be fixed. What? What do you mean fixed? How'd you fix it? What did you do? It didn't need fixing. It doesn't even say how they fixed it. What's going to happen next time I play my Glorious Evolution ×2 and play Evershade Stalker? Is the game going to say, you can't do that? How do you fix that? I'm confused. Cannot play over 15 cards. Well, that wasn't an infinite loop per se. Like, I need to play at least 20 of them so each one is hitting for 20. I need to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I need to play 18 more so they're all 20/20s. That means I need to be able to at least play 24 times my Evershade Stalker. You can't put it to 15. That means my Evershade Stalkers are going to be like 15 attack each? That's unethical. No. Bad Riot. Bad Riot. Bad change. Ruined my deck. Mimic will now correctly copy non-champion spells and will no longer reveal created cards to the opponent. Okay. When did it incorrectly copy non-champion spells? Fix the bug where Prank could occasionally increase the cost of a card beyond playability or drop its health to 0. Oh, that's not a bug, dude. That's a feature. No. No, Riot. Come on. That's a feature. It's so sad. It's not a bug, dude. I love the idea of 0 HP units. Boo. Anyway, Spell Shield will now correctly block Strafing Strike. Wait, didn't block Strafing Strike before? Interesting. Okay. That's good. Cure Shield will now correctly create copies of champions. Nice! Okay. Overgrown Snapvine and Tristana will now display correct keywords. Okay. Fixed an issue where Prank would not target landmarks in the opponent's hand. Interesting. Fixed an issue where darkness could be created in hand before a cast copy is resolved. Why is that an issue? Wait, you're saying you can't attack with Senna anymore? With darkness on board on stack? Wait, what? That was never an issue. That was not an issue. They said Senna still works, then what the hell does this mean? If Senna still works, what does this mean, dude? Before a cast copy is resolved. Like, isn't that the only time it happens? I'm so lost. We could recall some other darkness generator and have 2 darkness. But in what scenario? And burst summoning a unit? Well, isn't that the same as Senna then? Am I crazy? What's the difference between that and Senna? Oh, you play the card on the stack, you burst a unit out, it gives you darkness, and then you recall the darkness to hand. Okay, in that case, I understand that. That makes sense. That was just like when you were able to cast Mimic on itself on stack without actually playing it. Okay, that makes sense. That's actually a good change then. I'm down for that. All right. Zillion's ability will now currently duplicate Relic of Power and Sentinel's Horde. Pretty cool. Fix several UI, UX, and general visual bugs to improve overall gameplay curve. Okay. Listen, some of these I'm not a fan of. What the hell is this, dude? I hate this change. I'm sorry. People, listen, Riot, if people are going to do, like, infinite loops, they can also, like, literally rope for 2 minutes per turn. Like, people are going to be annoying either way, but I really don't like... What does this mean? How did they fix the issue? I really hope they put a big count up there, like, maybe 30, because it ruins meme decks, man. It ruins meme... It's probably Dovagetis who made that. Freaking Sigde Govad. Dovagetis, I'm disappointed. I really hope there's a really... Do you guys remember the game I was playing where I was trying to get my Victor to 69 attack to win with? And it's like, nope, you can't put any more buffs to him. Like, come on, game. It's 15. It's more than 15, I think. I think it's 15 of the same card. But still, it should be higher than 15. I really think it should be higher. You know what I would be fine with? I'll tell you right now. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of this in general. Okay. So I'm not a fan of this at all. And I'm not a fan of this at all. Even though I never did this in my life. I don't think I ever dropped anything. I think one time I did it. I just like the idea. It's a cool thing. But whatever. Overall, the patch notes are great. Great patch notes. I'm being very nitty-picky here. I just think some things are unnecessary. This is just something fun to do. And I can no longer do it. But yeah, this makes no sense. What does it mean to be fixed? What issue? There was never an issue. How many people actually did that ever? I mean, I have one video of me doing it. That's it. I've never seen anyone play against me with an infinite Evershade Stalker. You did it once on Shelly, I think. I think I did it once as well. Anyway, let's call that a patch note.
Jigglypuff, 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 Jiggly.
Wait, it hurts? What do you mean it hurts, chat? It's beautiful. You're supposed to be... There you go. There's the Z's I've been looking for.